I'll never forget the exact moment I realized something in my marriage had snapped. Not broke, snapped. It was like biting down on a fork because you thought it was spaghetti. Small thing, tiny error, but it ruins the whole bite. That moment came when Sandra started calling me Matthew again instead of babe. Just slipped it in at the end of a Tuesday, like it hadn't been 3 years since she last used my actual name when we weren't arguing. I remember pausing, trying to figure out why it felt so cold. I asked her if everything was all right, and she blinked like I'd interrupted her internal podcast. Yeah, she said, brushing past me to the laundry room. Why? Why? As if I'd asked her to define the purpose of life. It was always babe or hon, even Maddie, when she was trying to get something. But that Matthew landed like a report card with bad news in every subject. Now, I should say this up front. I'm not the suspicious type. I'm the guy who folds towels the way she likes without asking why there's a right way to fold towels. I change the oil. I shovel the driveway. I remember the birthdays of relatives I've never met. I'm a simple guy, but not a stupid one. We'd been married 9 years. No kids. Our plan. Just us, living in a modest 2-story in Raleigh. She taught English at the high school. I ran a home inspection business, good enough money, especially in the spring when everyone suddenly remembers termites exist. We had our routines. Thursday pasta night, Sunday Costco runs, the little passive arguments over thermostat settings. You know marriage. But lately, she'd been glitching, smiling less, showering at odd times, jumping out of her skin when I walked into her room. Our conversations got clipped. We stopped watching anything together. If I put on an old episode of The Office, she'd get up before the opening credits. Said it felt stale. I even offered therapy. She said it wasn't about us, it was about her needing to rediscover herself. Those are the words women use right before they torture life. I'd seen it before. My buddy Eric's wife told him the same thing, and 3 weeks later she was rediscovering herself in a yoga instructor's apartment in Charlotte. But I played along. I gave her space. I did what guys are taught to do. Don't accuse, don't assume, be supportive. Even when she came home late on a Saturday because of school paperwork, and I found a receipt in her coat pocket for a boutique wine bar on the other side of town, the kind of place she used to make fun of. The thing is, once you start noticing stuff, you can't stop. It's like that thing where you buy a red car and suddenly every car is red. You start seeing patterns where there used to be routine. She started texting from the bathroom. She changed her phone's lock code. She wore earrings to work again. Who wears earrings to grade 10th grade essays? One afternoon I mentioned that I thought we should go visit her sister in Atlanta. She said she already had plans that weekend. I said, doing what? She blinked. Did I not tell you? I signed up for a weekend writing seminar. Then she added, it's at a cabin. A cabin. A writing seminar. You see what I mean? It's not that the lie was big, it was that it was lazy. Sandra had always been better than that. But here's where things get messy. I still loved her. Even with all the signs, all the silence, the cold shoulder, and the cabin lies, I still wanted to believe maybe it was just stress. That maybe I was the one losing grip. Because if she was cheating, that meant our marriage wasn't real anymore. And I didn't know what I was supposed to do with that. So I did what any normal guy would do. I started snooping not on her phone, not in her emails. That's amateur hour. I started asking questions sideways. Casual-like. Who else is going to the writing seminar? Oh, do I know them? Are they staying overnight too? I'd say these things like I didn't care, like I was chewing gum while asking. But she never answered directly. Always vague. Always some answer that included the words, I don't know yet, or it's not finalized. And when people don't answer questions with answers, that's their answer. The following Thursday, I met an old friend for coffee, Rachel Dobbs. I hadn't seen her since we used to work at the same firm, and we got to talking about life, marriage, the usual. Rachel's sharp. The kind of woman who reads facial expressions the way most people read headlines. I don't know why I told her everything. Maybe because she wasn't part of my day-to-day life and could see things clearer than I could. Rachel let me finish, then asked one question. You really think she's gonna admit it, if she is cheating? No, I said. I don't think she thinks it's cheating. Exactly, Rachel said. People don't confess. They justify. That night, I sat in the living room with the TV on mute, just watching Sandra fold laundry. She was humming something. She didn't look like a woman wrecked with guilt. She looked content. That's when it hit me. If I wanted answers, I wasn't going to find them in pillow talk or her purse. I needed to outsmart her. Play it cooler than she ever expected. Because if she thought I was clueless, then I still had the element of surprise. And that, my friend, is how you catch someone who thinks they're smarter than you. I wasn't planning a confrontation. I was planning a reveal. And trust me, when I found out what she was hiding, it wasn't just who she was seeing. It was how and why. You're not going to see it coming either. I didn't wake up one morning with a plan. I wasn't sitting in some leather chair swirling whiskey, plotting moves like I'm in a Netflix drama. No. It started with a sticky note. A yellow, barely their little square stuck to the edge of the downstairs printer. I only noticed it because it was crooked. Sandra's notes are always perfectly square. Straight, measured, neat, like everything she does. This one was off. A little tilted, like someone stuck it on while in a rush. Now, that wouldn't mean anything to a normal person. But when you've been living with someone for 9 years, their habits aren't just things you observe, they're clockwork. You know how they hold pens. You know how they fold towels. You know when they're lying even if they swear they're not. The note said one word. Form. And a little arrow pointing down to the paper tray. Now, I wasn't expecting to uncover a secret code. But I opened the printer anyway because what the hell, right? And sitting there, waiting like it wanted to be found, was a freshly printed document. Still warm. It was a student recommendation letter. On school letterhead. But not signed by Sandra. Signed by a man named Kevin Haley. The name didn't ring any bells. Not right away. But I kept reading. It wasn't the content that stood out. It was the style. The phrasing. The way this guy described the student. It felt weirdly Sandra-ish. So I did a dumb thing. I Googled the guy. Kevin Haley. Teaches history at the same school. 10 years older than Sandra. Never married. Lives out in Garner, about 20 minutes from us. The school website listed him as faculty advisor for the Creative Writing Club. That's when the elevator started going up in my brain. Creative Writing Club. The same club Sandra had started meeting with again this semester. The same club that suddenly had weekend retreats and evening critiques and apparently required a Costco-size amount of flavored seltzers in the trunk of her car. I clicked around on the school newsletter. Pictures of students. Awards. Some paragraphs written by the advisors. And then I saw it. A group photo from last month. Sandra, front row, arm around a student, smiling. And standing directly behind her Kevin, arm on the back of her chair. Casual, but too familiar. Not the way coworkers pose. The kind of pose that says, we've sat close in private before. Now I wasn't jumping to conclusions. Not yet. I'm not that guy. But I've seen enough bad high school dramas and worse marriages to know what breadcrumbs look like. So I got curious. Next day, I faked a reason to drop by her school. Brought her lunch. Something I never do. Told her I happened to be in the area. She looked surprised, then annoyed, but took the food anyway and said she had a faculty meeting. I didn't buy that. I loitered. Sat in the car across the street. Watched as Kevin walked out the side entrance of the school about 15 minutes later. No meeting. No lunch in hand. He got into his silver Tacoma and drove off. I followed. Not even pretending I wasn't about to do something ridiculous. He didn't go to lunch. He went to the post office. And then a hardware store. Then he stopped at a dry cleaner, came out with 2 shirts on a hanger, one men's, one women's. That stopped me. Because Sandra does not do dry cleaning. I followed him back to a condo complex in Garner, where he parked in a spot marked guest. Took the shirts upstairs to Unit 2B. You ever get that eerie feeling that your life is about to shift and you're not ready? I sat in the car and stared at that condo for 15 minutes. I didn't know what I was hoping for. Maybe I thought she'd walk out onto the balcony. Maybe I thought I'd see something concrete. But nothing happened. So I left. Drove home. Sat on the edge of our bed and stared at the wall like a guy who lost a bit he didn't know he placed. The next week was a blur. She was grading papers more often. More writing club meetings. More excuses. And I played dumb. Smiled when I had to. Asked about her students and listened as she gave vague answers. I even offered to make dinner one night, which I haven't done since 2019. Then Thursday came. That's when I found it. She forgot to log out of the desktop computer in the study. Normally she uses her laptop, but it was dead, and I guess she needed to print something. I wasn't snooping. I was just trying to print an invoice. But when I clicked the browser, her email was wide open. Not her school one, her personal Gmail. I don't read her emails. I swear. But the subject lines hit me like car alarms going off in a church. Last night was unexpected, but amazing. Don't worry, he doesn't suspect. Love the way you read my story to me. And one from 2 days ago. Let's not overthink this. Just come by after the staff meeting. There it was. I clicked the thread. It wasn't graphic. No naked selfies. No dirty talk. Just emotional intimacy. And that's worse. They talked about books. Inside jokes. A short story she wrote about a married woman who rediscovers herself through literature and forbidden conversation. He called it brilliant. Said she should submit it to a contest. She said she was scared. He said he'd help her edit it over wine. Wine. I felt my hands shake. I clicked her drafts. Nothing. Then, I noticed the Google Drive link. Opened it. There was a folder called Workshop Pieces. A half-dozen Word docs. Titles like The Weight of Waiting and Echoes on the Porch. One was called Letter I'll Never Send. I opened it. It wasn't addressed to Kevin. It was addressed to me. And it wasn't kind. She talked about feeling invisible. About the resentment she'd never voiced. About the things I'd never asked. The way I stopped being curious about her. I stopped breathing halfway through it. Not because I was mad. Because she was right. I had stopped being curious. I thought stability was the goal. That comfort was love. That if I mowed the lawn and remembered the anniversary, we were fine. Turns out, fine isn't enough. But none of that excused what came next in the letter. She described how being around Kevin made her feel seen again, and how it didn't feel like cheating because nothing about her marriage felt real anymore. She said I'd probably never find out, and even if I did, I wouldn't make a scene, because I was too polite for that. Too polite. That line burned. I closed the document. Logged out. Sat in the dark with the hum of the printer still in my ears. She was right about one thing. I wasn't going to make a scene, but I wasn't going to be polite about it either. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was torn up, or sobbing, or pacing the house in a dramatic movie montage. I just couldn't stop hearing her voice in that letter. The way she typed it like a confessional no one asked for. It didn't feel like cheating because nothing about our marriage felt real anymore. That line echoed in my head like a bad jingle. Like something written by someone who wanted forgiveness without actually apologizing. The emotional equivalent of, I'm sorry you feel that way. By sunrise, I wasn't hurt anymore. I was focused. I went downstairs, made coffee, and fed the neighbor's cat. Sandra had agreed to watch it while they were in Florida. She loved that cat. Talked to it more than she talked to me lately. I made sure to pet it gently and say, "You're the only one in this house that doesn't lie." The cat blinked at me and walked away. Typical. I didn't go nuclear. I didn't text Kevin. I didn't confront her with screenshots. You do that, and you give them an out. You make it about the evidence. I wanted it to be about the choice she made. So I waited. Played dumb. Let the rope play out. She came home that evening with groceries and a fake smile. I offered to help unload the bags. She looked surprised. You don't have to do that, she said. I know, I said. I want to. She didn't ask why. Just handed me the bag with the almond milk and kombucha. I held it like it wasn't full of betrayal. At dinner, she asked if I wanted to go to her school's spring talent show on Friday. The students really worked hard, she said. And it'd be good for us to go out together. I know we haven't done that in a while. A while. Like we'd just been busy. I said sure. Smiled through my chicken stir-fry. Nodded at the right moments. Told her I was proud of her. I even loaded the dishwasher, which, in our house, was basically a marriage proposal. I let the week roll on like that. Warm. Present. Even affectionate. I complimented her hair. Made her coffee. Offered to rub her shoulders. And I watched her crack. Not visibly. Just in small ways. She flinched when I kissed her cheek. Hesitated when I asked about her day. Kept checking her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. On Friday, she got dressed for the talent show in a navy blouse and a soft cardigan. I complimented her earrings. She looked at me sideways like I'd grown a second head. But she smiled anyway. We drove to the school together. Sat through mediocre poetry and two kids who tried to beatbox and accidentally turned it into a coughing contest. Kevin never showed his face. When we got home, I waited until she was brushing her teeth. I sat on the bed, hands folded, heart calm. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was surgical. She walked into the room in her usual pajama set. That soft cotton one with little moons on it. The one she used to wear when she'd curl up next to me during snowstorms. Hey, I said. Can we talk? She looked at me, toothbrush still in hand. Now. Yeah. She sat on the edge of the bed. Okay. I looked at her, not blinking. I know about Kevin. Dead silence. The toothbrush in her hand dropped to the floor. I know you're sleeping with him. Or riding with him. Or soul-searching with him. Whatever label makes you feel less guilty. I know. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Her mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. I waited. How long? I asked. She swallowed. Matt. I didn't raise my voice. I asked how long. She looked away. It's not like that. I almost laughed. Don't insult me. You wrote an entire letter about it. You just didn't hit send. Now she was pale. She knew exactly what I meant. She'd never mentioned the letter to me, but I'd read it. Every line, every passive-aggressive jab, every self-justifying paragraph. I saw the emails I added, the shared Google Drive, the story about the married woman who feels seen again, the meetings that aren't meetings, the dry cleaning ticket with 2 shirts, the lie about the writing seminar at a cabin. She finally found her voice. Matt, you don't get to talk yet. That shut her up. I gave you every chance, I continued. I asked questions. I listened. I tried to connect. I gave you space when you asked for it, and you used that space to carve out a second life. With a man who signs student recommendation letters like he's God's gift to the humanities. She stared at the floor. I let the silence stretch. You said in your letter that I'd never find out. That even if I did, I wouldn't make a scene. I didn't mean. Oh, you meant it. You thought you'd keep your little creative writing affair going until one of 2 things happened. I either got boring enough to push you out the door, or he got lonely enough to let you in. Now she looked angry, defensive. It's not like that, Matthew. It's complicated. No, I said. It's really not. You lied. You cheated. You built a world that didn't include me. And you were too much of a coward to admit it. Tears were forming now. I didn't feel pity. I felt clarity. I didn't sleep with him until recently, she whispered. I tilted my head. So there was a delay between the betrayal and the action? How thoughtful. You don't understand. Don't need to. I'm not here to decode your feelings. I stood up, walked to the dresser, and opened the top drawer. Pulled out a folder. What's that? She asked, voice small. My outline, I said, for what happens next. Inside were 4 neatly printed pages. Timelines. Financials. Proof of infidelity from the emails. A list of shared assets. My own short story, if you will. I'm not dragging this out, I said. I'm not here to scream or cry. I'm giving you the respect you didn't give me. She covered her mouth. You're divorcing me? No, Sandra. I'm releasing you. Isn't that what you wanted? To rediscover yourself? She started to say something. I held up a hand. I'm not mad you wanted something else. I'm mad you pretended I wasn't enough while using me as a safety net. I'm not your foundation anymore. I'm the floor you've been standing on while reaching for something shinier. She was crying now, ugly and silent. I turned to walk out of the room. Matt. I paused in the doorway. Please don't tell anyone. I turned back. Oh, I won't, I said. But I will show them. Then I walked out. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Not out of anxiety, just habit. 9 years of waking up next to the same person trains your brain to anticipate routine, even when that routine is rotted from the inside out. Sandra didn't come out of the guest room. She didn't say a word. She stayed behind that closed door, probably drafting a new version of her letter, one where she's the misunderstood wife and I'm the inattentive husband who somehow made her do it. I didn't care, because I had a plan now. This wasn't going to be a screaming match in the driveway. I wasn't going to post cryptic quotes on Facebook or drop passive-aggressive hints in group chats. That's what amateurs do. What I had in mind was quiet, precise, designed to leave her standing in the ruins of the life she built on top of me. Step 1. I had coffee with her boss. Not Kevin. I'm not an idiot. I'm not blowing up my own life for some petty school scandal. No, I went higher. Principal Cheryl Mercer. 62 years old, like cinnamon tea, and remembers everything. She and I met at Jitterbeans, a coffee shop near the school. I'd emailed her the day after the confrontation asking if she had a moment to discuss something important regarding staff conduct. It was vague enough to get her attention without triggering alarms. She showed up in a navy windbreaker with the school crest stitched on the left pocket. Matthew, she said, shaking my hand. This isn't about the spring fundraiser, is it? No, I said. It's about my wife and her colleague, Kevin Haley. Her eyebrows lifted, but she didn't say anything. Just waited. I'm not here to start a witch hunt, I said. But I think it's important you know that 2 of your teachers, my wife included, have been using the Creative Writing Club as a front for their relationship. I have emails, drafts, messages exchanged during school hours. I'm not sure what the school's policies are on professional boundaries, but I thought you should be aware. She didn't interrupt once. just sipped her tea and nodded. Do you have these messages with you? I slid a flash drive across the table. I'd pulled out everything relevant, timestamped exchanges, the shared writing folders, even the file name of the short story Sandra had titled A Quiet Undoing with Kevin's feedback scribbled in the margins. This is confidential, I added. I'm not going public. But I figured you'd prefer to handle it internally rather than find out from the PDA. She didn't smile. Didn't thank me. Just said, we'll look into it. And you did the right thing. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling 10 pounds lighter. Step 2. Real estate. Sandra didn't know it, but the house was in my name only. Bought it 4 months before our wedding with my down payment and a loan from my father. We refinanced 2 years in, but I never added her name to the deed. She never asked. Probably figured love meant shared ownership. It didn't. The next day, I met with my realtor, a no-nonsense woman named Dawn who looked like she could run a construction crew and a courtroom simultaneously. I want it listed within a week, I told her. You're sure? She asked. You don't want to settle this first? No, I said. Sandra doesn't get the house. She gets a head start. We listed the home with high-quality photos and a polished write-up. I scheduled the open house for a Saturday when Sandra would be at a school retreat, another Kevin weekend, I assumed. I didn't care. Let her come home to strangers touring her kitchen. Let her feel what it's like to have your life flipped by someone else's decision. Step 3. Group chat. Ours was called Friends of Matt and Sandra. 10 people for couples, 2 singles, all of them people we'd known for years. Birthdays, BBQs, holiday gift swaps. The usual suburban social net. I sent one message. Hey everyone, just a quick update. Sandra and I are separating. I won't go into details, but I'll say this. Sometimes people rewrite their story without telling the person who was helping write it. I wish her clarity. I'm selling the house and will be moving in the next couple of months. Appreciate your support. That's it. No drama. No blame. Just a controlled leak of truth. Reactions came fast. Wait. What? Oh man, are you okay? Please tell me this isn't because of what we think. One of the wives messaged me privately. Matt, I saw Sandra at Harris Teeter last month with some guy. I didn't want to assume anything, but now I feel like I should have said something. Too late. But thanks anyway. Step 4. Her job. I didn't follow up. I didn't need to. Within a week, I heard through another teacher that Kevin had been temporarily reassigned pending an internal review and Sandra had taken a personal leave. She came home that Friday looking like she hadn't slept. Her face was pale. Her eyes looked like someone had scrubbed the hope out of them. What did you do? She asked, her voice cracking. I told the truth, I said, flipping through the mail. You went to Cheryl? I did. That was private. You made it public when you turned your marriage into a side project. Her hands were trembling. They might fire me. I didn't ask them to, I said. I gave them facts. What they do with it is up to them. She didn't respond. Just walked into the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and stood there like she forgot how to drink. Step 5. The story. This was the final nail. I uploaded her short story, A Quiet Undoing, to a National Literary Workshop's open submissions forum. Under her real name. I didn't forge anything. She'd written it. Kevin had edited it. They'd created it together. And it was good. That's the worst part. It was honest and painful and raw. It was also plagiarized. Half the content came from emails Kevin had sent her, which I noted in my submission comments. I didn't sign my name. I let it sit. 2 weeks later, she got an email. I only know because she stormed into the living room with her laptop in hand. You submitted my story, she said, voice flat. Did I? They flagged it. Said it includes content lifted from another source. From emails. That it's under review for ethical violation. Sounds serious, I said, sipping my coffee. You did this. I looked her dead in the eyes. No, Sandra. You did. I just made sure someone noticed. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just stood there, frozen. It finally hit her. This wasn't about punishment. It was about exposure. You don't get to spend months writing a love story behind someone's back and expect that person to keep reading silently. Sandra left the house 3 days later. No note. No apology. Just a half-empty closet and a key left on the counter. I slept in that bed alone for the first time and felt something surprising. Peace. She thought I'd be quiet. That I'd sulk. That I'd make it easy for her to play the misunderstood artist in her new chapter. But I wasn't a footnote. I was the twist in her story she didn't see coming. It had been 3 weeks since Sandra left the house, and the silence was almost melodic. No music drifting from the bathroom speaker while she got ready. No sound of her pacing the hallway in heels she didn't need to wear to school but did anyway, always too aware of how she looked to the world. No keyboard clacking past midnight when she was grading papers, but really writing romantic monologues to a man who thought Word docs counted as intimacy. I didn't miss her. What I missed were the echoes of a life I'd assumed was mutual. Turns out, it wasn't. The house was nearly cleared out now. The for sale sign stood out front like a gravestone. I had an offer from a couple in their 30s who wanted to start a family. Good for them. Hopefully they weren't building on quicksand. I'd moved into a temporary rental across town, a modest 2-bedroom with beige walls and a fridge that hummed like it had opinions. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Quiet, clean, free of ghosts. I slept better there than I had in years. I hadn't seen Sandra since the day she left. She didn't call, didn't text, just vanished, probably licking her wounds somewhere, blaming me for the fallout she engineered. So I was surprised when she emailed me. Not even a proper subject line. Just, "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a full minute. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd already burned the emotional fuel. What was left was just the sit. I replied. Neutral place. No drama. 1 hour. We met at the lake park near the edge of town, public, open, no chance of things escalating into anything regrettable. I picked the bench near the boat dock. Middle of the week. No crowd. Just the occasional jogger and an old guy feeding ducks like it was his part-time job. Sandra showed up wearing sunglasses and a trench coat. Dramatic, like she thought we were filming the final scene of a spy movie. "Hi," she said, voice soft. "Sit," I said. No smile. She did. Legs crossed, hands folded in her lap. A rehearsed posture. "I wasn't sure if you'd agree to this," she started. I shrugged. "I figured you wanted a scene. Or closure. Or to see if I'd lost weight." That got a flicker of a smile from her. But not a warm one. Just a twitch. She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were tired. The kind of tired that can't be fixed with sleep. She looked thinner. Not in the good way. In the stress diet way. "I wanted to talk because everything fell apart," she said finally. "Everything?" I asked. "You mean your side project?" "Kevin's been let go," she said, barely above a whisper. "There was a formal investigation. Someone submitted the story anonymously with flagged content and emails. They matched the writing samples. He denies it, but I don't need the postmortem," I said. "I already read the autopsy." Her jaw tensed. "You really wanted to destroy me, didn't you?" That hit different. Not because it wasn't offensive, but because it was cowardly. Sandra had always been fluent in passive blame. It's what she used when she left dishes in the sink or forgot my birthday. And now she'd upgraded it to emotional war crimes. "I didn't destroy you," I said. "I stopped covering for you. There's a difference." She didn't respond, just looked out at the water. A boat glided past in the distance, silent and slow. "I lost my job," she finally said. "They didn't fire me officially. They just encouraged a resignation. Said it was best for everyone. That happens when people violate ethics policies and treat a student club like a dating service." She flinched like she thought I wouldn't say it out loud. "And Kevin?" I asked. She looked down. "He's ghosted me. Won't return texts. Deleted his social media. Transferred his lease." That part didn't surprise me. Kevin didn't strike me as the long-haul type. More of a "I like married women because they leave after" kind of guy. "You thought he was the answer, didn't you?" I said. "You thought he was the plot twist." She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time since she arrived. And for a second, I could see the version of her from years ago, the woman who used to eat cereal standing up, barefoot, laughing at nothing. "I thought I'd feel alive again," she said. That sentence sat between us like a confession booth. "I thought I was fading," she went on. "And he saw me. And when you live your life feeling unnoticed, being seen becomes addictive." I nodded. "So you needed someone to light a match, and you didn't care what burned down." She swallowed. "I didn't plan for it to happen that way. You never do. That's what makes it easier to pretend it wasn't your fault." She looked away. "I guess I just wanted to know if there's anything left between us," she whispered. That question didn't hurt. It didn't even sting. It just confirmed what I already knew. She had no idea who I was anymore. "No," I said simply. "There's not." She blinked, as if expecting some hesitation. Some sign that I was still wrestling with it. "You burned it, Sandra. Every version of us. Even the good memories. You didn't just cheat on me, you rewrote our whole marriage to justify it. You said it didn't feel real anymore. That's how you sleep at night." I was lost, she said. You weren't lost. You just liked the attention. And when it came time to face the consequences, you folded. You didn't own it. You hid. Now the tears came. But they weren't loud. No sobbing. Just slow, silent drips, like rain off a gutter. You really hate me now, don't you? She said. I shook my head. I don't hate you. I just don't respect you. That landed like a slap. Her face crumpled, but she kept her posture straight. I'll give her that she was still performing, even at the curtain call. Will you tell people? She asked. The details. I leaned back. Don't need to. People draw their own conclusions. And besides, I'm not the one who wrote a self-incriminating love story and left it sitting in the cloud. She let out a small, pained laugh. You were always smarter than me. No, I said. Just quieter. We sat in silence a while longer. The ducks were circling now, hoping one of us had snacks. A little girl rode past on a scooter and waved at me. I waved back. Take care of yourself, Matt, Sandra finally said, rising. I plan to. She walked away slowly, shoulders heavy. I didn't watch her go. I stared out at the lake, thinking about nothing. It felt good. That was the last time I saw her. No dramatic airport goodbyes. No handwritten notes. No calls 6 months later asking if I'm seeing someone new. Just silence. And sometimes, silence is the kindest ending you can offer a person who only spoke when they wanted something. 6 months later, I no longer flinch when someone says her name. I can walk past the high school without my jaw tightening. I don't check her social media. I blocked her the day after that final conversation. Not out of spite. Out of self-respect. The version of me that tolerated ambiguity and gave endless benefit of the doubt doesn't live here anymore. I live in a 2-bedroom rental now. Not glamorous, but clean. I got a used leather couch off Facebook Marketplace and finally threw out the throw pillows Sandra insisted tied the room together. It turns out, nothing needed to be tied. The room was fine by itself. The funny thing is, I thought being alone would be the hard part. It's not. The hard part was being in a marriage where I felt alone and trying to convince myself I wasn't. Now, when I eat dinner alone, at least it's honest. That weird kind of quiet? It's mine now. The house sold to a couple with a golden retriever and one of those annoying live, laugh, love signs already hanging on their front porch. Sandra got nothing from the sale. She didn't fight me on it. I think she knew she didn't have ground to stand on, legally or morally. And I think she was just tired. Being exposed does that to people. Last I heard, she was consulting remotely freelance editing for an online education platform. Someone told me she moved back in with her sister. No sign of Kevin. He disappeared like a man who knew he could be replaced in every chapter. Which, in fairness, he could. I didn't date for a while. Not out of grief. Just detox. I spent time rediscovering parts of myself that had gone dormant. I played guitar again. Badly, but with heart. I ran a 10K for the first time in 8 years. I started reading books that didn't end in some ironic tragedy just to feel cultured. And I talked to people, really talked. Not out of obligation. Out of curiosity. Something Sandra once claimed I'd lost. She wasn't entirely wrong. But the difference between now and then is I no longer carry guilt for not being everything she wanted. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. People cheat for 1,000 reasons, and most of them have nothing to do with the person they're cheating on. It's about ego, timing, boredom, the high of reinvention. Sandra didn't betray me because I was a bad husband. She betrayed me because she was trying to escape herself, and she needed a mirror that didn't reflect the life she'd built. Kevin gave her that mirror. And when it cracked, so did her story. What hurt the most wasn't the affair, it was how disposable she made the years feel. Like everything before him was just warm-up. Like our marriage was a coat she outgrew. But here's what I've come to understand. Some people don't want stability. They want novelty. Not better. Just different. They mistake movement for progress. Me? I'm done mistaking quiet for emptiness. I like my peace now. I protect it. I saw our old friend group recently. A few of them still seemed hesitant around me, unsure whether to ask questions or pretend nothing happened. I didn't give them a script. I just said what needed to be said. I'm good. And I meant it. Some looked relieved. Others curious. But no one asked about her. They knew. Maybe not all the details, but enough. And I didn't need to fill in the blanks. At one point, Jill, one of the wives, pulled me aside. You seem lighter, she said. I am. She nodded, then hesitated. So, what would you do differently? I thought about that for a second. Honestly, I would have left sooner, I said. The signs were there. I just kept hoping the version of her I loved would come back. Jill looked surprised, like she expected me to say something about forgiveness or growth or whatever people say when they want to sound evolved. But I wasn't interested in sounding evolved. I was interested in being honest. That's the thing no one talks about. Sometimes walking away isn't bitterness. It's clarity. Sometimes closure isn't a hug or a deep conversation. It's waking up, looking in the mirror, and not feeling like a supporting character in your own life. And here's the wildest part. I'm not bitter. I'm not scared to love again. I just won't do it on someone else's terms. I won't be the fallback plan. I won't be the one waiting at home while someone else finds themselves in a stranger's apartment. I'm not angry anymore, but I am awake. The other day, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. I knew the handwriting immediately. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Not because I was tempted, just curious what version of herself she was peddling now. It was short. 6 lines. Matt, I don't know what to say that would matter now, but I know you didn't deserve how it all unfolded. I was weak. You were kind. I hope you're happy. I'm sorry. I read it once. Then I dropped it in the shredder. Not because it made me mad, just because it didn't belong in the life I was building now. Let her keep the apology. I don't need it. I don't need closure wrapped in 6 lines from someone who needed a new chapter so badly they tore out mine. What I need is this: mornings without tension, rooms that don't feel like courtrooms, laughter that doesn't come with terms and conditions. And I have that now. People always say time heals. They're wrong. Truth heals. Accountability heals. Walking away when someone stops choosing you, that heals. And I've never felt more whole. The end. Subscribe to the channel